So I'm Melanie Langlotz. Do we actually have the clicker here? Yep. So I'm Melanie Langlotz, the CEO of Geo AR Games. Geez, it's so bright here, I can't even see you guys. So I'm the CEO from Geo AR Games, and we get kids off the couch and physically active outside through digital mobile outdoor games. Now, when Greg invited me to come here to Rotorua, besides the fact that I love Rotorua, I'm a real fan of it because it's such an active and exciting place. I also have to give his magazine a real plug because I obviously hadn't heard of INTERFACE magazine before because I'm not a teacher. But as I was flicking through it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Look at all these apps and these articles and the school projects that you don't hear about it. You know, you just don't hear about it unless you're a teacher and you're reading the magazine. So if any of you guys are doing augmented reality projects at school, I would love to hear about it. So what we're going to talk about in this talk is the benefits of augmented reality in the classroom. We're going to talk a little bit about the technology, and then we're going to move on to our application, Magical Park, which we are known for. Now, hands up, how many of you have actually heard of Magical Park before? A couple, not that many. Cool, awesome. All right, so there seems to be a bit of confusion out there about what is virtual reality and what is augmented reality. And to be honest, even I started to get confused reading all these articles and, you know, having terms thrown around left, right, and center. So I've got a background, 20 years in film and television. And so for me, for instance, 360 video is not virtual reality. I'm taking a real stand for that one. It's just another video format, and I'm happy to discuss that with those people that believe it's virtual reality. Virtual reality to me is a 100% synthetic environment which you can only engage with a headset on. So you're wearing a headset and you're 100% in a 360 3D environment, so it's all 3D. Versus augmented reality is different. Augmented reality has actually been around since 1960. Would you believe it? A lot of people think it's a new thing. It's not. So if you think about the American Cup race, and you see the live video transmission, and you see the finish line where the boats go through, that is a simple form of augmented reality. It's a live video feed, and on top of it sits a 2D or 3D animation. And that is the simplest form of augmented reality. So on the picture on the right, you can see that the guy is playing Minecraft augmented reality, and in the background you still see the living room. So augmented reality you can play with a headset or with a mobile device. Totally, you know, like up to the person. But it's a different experience. You have some form of reality in there. Now, there are different types of augmented reality technologies. So this, for instance, that we're looking at here is image recognition. So for image recognition, you need a high contrast image, and the mobile device needs to capture at least a quarter of the screen, has to fill that image. And so that high contrast image, in this case, those 3 blocks that spell cat, are linked to an animation, either 2D or 3D. So that is image recognition. Very simple form and easily done. You can use an app like Orasma to even do it in your classroom. Then there is tracking. So tracking links onto or locks onto like a shape, like the shape of my hand or a pattern on the ground, and then it tracks. So I can move and it will stay there. Now, the apps that I know from the App Store, none of them can really go further than like 180-degree rotation before it loses the tracking markers and it won't sit anymore in the landscape. So that's tracking. And then, of course, everybody knows Pokemon Go. Who doesn't, right? So Pokemon Go is an interesting combination. It is geospatial. It uses GPS coordinates for the positioning of your Pikachu and your Pokemons and your Pokestops and all these things. But the augmented reality type in there, while it is linked to a GPS coordinate, it is interesting that it's actually just a flat animation on a live video feed. And so you will have noticed you can't walk up to Pikachu, you can't walk around Pikachu, you can't interact with Pikachu. He's always doing the same thing, and it's always the same animation, no matter whether I step 5 meters over the air or 5 meters to the right, it's always the same. So, but it is geospatial. Now let's have a look at the technical details in terms of the mobile devices. And so for those of you that are looking at purchasing devices for the school, this is where you want to take a photo of that slide. So we're looking at different types of sensors. And of course, in order to kind of, choose the right device, it does need to have a front and rear camera, so that's all easy. But then it also needs to have a GPS. So think, for instance, about your iPad mini Model 1. Your iPad mini Model 1 doesn't have a SIM card slot. Therefore, it doesn't have a GPS. So all the other devices do have a GPS. So I actually haven't come across a lot of devices that don't have a GPS. So most of them do. With the GPS, just to give you a little bit of an indication what a GPS actually needs to function properly. So a GPS doesn't work very well inside because it needs open sky in order to get a signal. Even if you're standing under a tree or right next to some tall buildings, the GPS signal will reflect off the buildings or off the tree, and so you won't get a decent signal. Wet ground, bad weather, rain, all these things will affect your GPS and how it works. So that's the reason why a mobile device may one day have a really good accuracy of like a meter, but the next day the weather has changed, you come back to the same spot, and it'll be 15 meters over there. On top of that, if you have had the GPS turned off for a while, like parents often do with kids' devices, it will take 10 to 15 minutes for the GPS to warm up and actually find you. So there's a lot of things with the GPS that your normal consumer doesn't actually realize. Then we have an accelerometer, which basically measures the acceleration forces and that the image is displayed upright, the right way up, and the gravity. So Pokemon Go, for instance, all Pokemon needs to be used is a GPS and an accelerometer, which is the reason why you can't do the rotation. So that's really important to notice. A lot of devices out there have been stripped of the gyroscope and the compass, so do be careful. Like, for instance, I've got a lot of people that ring me up and say, I've just bought a brand new phone, it's a Samsung J2, and why does it not work with Magical Park? Well, it's been stripped and it's missing exactly that, the gyroscope and the compass. So do pay attention. We're only just getting to the point where consumers are starting to notice what sensors are actually in the phone. And I had a lovely lady who rang me up and said, well, what if I download a compass app? Will I then have a compass? No. I'm sorry, no. That's not how it works. It needs to be hardware. Wi-Fi access. So for schools, obviously, the devices often don't have mobile data. They are unlikely to have, like SIM cards with mobile data, so you need to have Wi-Fi access. So for our game, for instance, you need to have a Wi-Fi booster that extends the Wi-Fi into the school ground in order to play Magical Park. And then we have device cases. Now, this is a really interesting one because I think we're going to see some change here very soon as augmented reality is pushing in. So if I, for instance, use my device here as an example, it's got a massive magnet on the back. So this is part of like a wallet, and that slips in here, and then there is another magnet up here holding the device in place. These magnets, as we all remember from our school days, interfere with the compass. And with the digital compass, there is no difference. So if, for instance, you are using an augmented reality app and you're wondering why it's not working very well, it may just be because your device case has got a magnet in it. And so it definitely pays to look for device cases that do not have a magnet. All right, that was enough with the technical part. Let's move on. Now, as I was researching for this talk, I came across this amazing study. And it was literally titled Benefits of Augmented Reality in the Classroom. And I was so excited. They had differentiated augmented reality in different applications that are good for learning, rather than the technology. And so the different groups were discovery-based learning, and the example that I've pulled out here for an augmented reality app are Elements 4D or Anatomy 4D from DACRI. Now, we do not have time to play a video for each of them, but please do look them up. And we will also make the slides available with the links via Greg's Interface magazine. Objects modeling would be, for instance, an example, Minecraft augmented reality. Everybody knows Minecraft and how the kids are modeling. Augmented reality books. So this is typical image recognition. You hold your phone over an image and something happens. In this case, though, I used a different example, which I'm really excited about. Another New Zealand company, if you haven't heard about it yet, Quiver Education. It is so incredible. You basically print out, for instance, an image of a plant cell, and the kids paint in and color in the plant cell, hold the device over it, and the cell comes to life, and they can tap on different things and get the name of it. It's just fantastic. Skills training. How many of you guys have heard of HoloLens? Not that many, actually. It always surprises me. So we'll see a video a little bit later on what HoloLens is, and I'm sure it's going to blow you away. But Zapbox is a new Kickstarter that is available for $30 and is way, way cheaper than HoloLens. So do take note of that. Look it up. I've only just recently heard about it, and it's the cheap version of a HoloLens. And then augmented reality gaming, that's us, Magical Park, for instance, just as an example. Now, I came across this researcher, Edgar Dale, and what he says is the human brain tends to remember 10% of what it reads, 20% of what it hears, but 90% of what it does and simulates. So what do you think of all these different categories did the best? So, in the study, Benefits of Augmented Reality in Educational Environments from 2015, they looked at all those 5 different types of applications of augmented reality in the classroom, and discovery-based learning, look at the score. Like, just motivation alone has got a 7, learning curve 6, it scored the highest by far. And to me, that wasn't really a surprise because augmented reality and virtual reality have the power to change behavior, to trick the mind into thinking it's real, and that's why it's such an engaging form for the classroom, and it's very cost effective. So, benefits of augmented reality, let's have a look. As we have seen, more student engagement and higher motivation, faster learning, but also at the student's pace, which is obviously really good. Better quality of education at a reduced cost. That obviously depends on how many devices do you have, what sort of apps do you buy, do you get them for, like a free version, or do you have to pay them at premium? And the bottom 3 are actually things that we have noticed with a lot of video games. So this is not specific to augmented reality. This is a byproduct of good video games. And that is that it teaches kids leadership and solution-focused thinking, team collaboration, problem solving, and higher creativity. So video games are no longer really seen as a waste of time. There's a lot of benefit to it.
We've been teaching human anatomy the same way for 100 years. Students get a cadaver, then they look at medical illustrations, and it's completely two-dimensional, and the human body isn't.
Microsoft HoloLens is a holographic computer that you wear. It enables you to bring your digital world into your real world.
At Case Western Reserve University, we are focused on solving problems and creating new knowledge.
My job is to teach, and I really think this could impact almost everything that we teach people. With HoloLens, you can see the muscles on top of the skeleton all at the same time. You can bring them in and out and exactly understand where things sit.
You can take any anatomical part and show any of it. You can move it around, you can make it kind of translucent so you can see through the outside, and that really helped me understand how cardiac anatomy worked. I actually had a moment where I found the aortic valve, and it was the first time that I'd actually seen the aortic valve in relation to all the other anatomical structures. It was a way of seeing it that you couldn't do with an actual heart.
I think this will improve students' confidence in learning anatomy dramatically.
By creating simulations with the HoloLens that lets them have an experience where they can fail, that would be the best way to learn because we don't allow people to fail too much in real-life medicine.
With HoloLens, you could imagine having a class standing around a model, almost like a tour group in a museum, where they're all interacting completely naturally. I spend a huge amount of time to make sure they become the best professionals because it's all of our jobs to make the world a better place.
working with Case Western Reserve University to create this paradigm shift so that we can leap together with students into the future of education. We believe that HoloLens is going to enable us to do that.
We talked about being able to use it to teach art history. We have an anthropology department too that I think will enjoy this technology.
Anytime you change the way that you see things, it changes the way that you understand them. As soon as you can change somebody's understanding, then they can change the way they see the world.
So those devices will become much, much cheaper over time. So definitely keep an eye on that, because I can see this sort of technology starting to move into classrooms over the next 5 to 10 years, definitely. So let's move on to Magical Park, which is us. So we are a New Zealand startup, and when did we start? Just under 2 years ago. And we are now in 16 parks in New Zealand and 6 parks across Australia. And to give you a bit of an idea what Magical Park looks like, I've got a video for you.
Experience it for the first time, just looking at it and going, whoa.
We might catch kittens.
They're running around, they're getting so much exercise. I've watched them going back and forth and back and forth. They're probably covering kilometres.
Although we live nearby, we haven't been to the domain for ages. And I see them enjoying it. They played for a long time, they are excited, they want to do more. It's awesome.
I think it's brilliant, especially for the autistic. Cameron's 9, he's not one that will go out, socialise. Today we've seen him interacting with other children, which is brilliant, and exercise.
I think it's something they should spread more Auckland-wide. More local area parks would be a great idea. We have a park just around the corner, and if there was something like this there, it would be so much easier for the kids to run down there and have a play around.
Amy and I had this crazy idea, we're going to make it happen. And so that's us, that's the team. And obviously, you know, like as a little startup, it's always hard to find the funding and get going and, you know, build the dream that you have. And we were very lucky. We got introduced to the New Zealand Recreation Association and then Parks and Leisure Australia, and now to UK Active in England. And so those are our sales and marketing partners. So that allows us to focus on development while they go out and do the sales and marketing for us, which is really brilliant. And so being only 2 people on the team, you know, obviously makes it a little bit hard to get all the resources together ongoingly to develop more content and more content. Ever since we've shown it to schools, schools say to us, we really, really want educational content. It would be so cool if you could give us games that help us teach language, like Maori language or whatever. And for us, the problem is always, where do we get the funding from? So we're quite excited that at the moment, right now as we speak, one of our partners is in China, and he's starting to look at collaborating with the Chinese government to build the first language educational content for us. And then obviously, you know, like we will be able to adapt that and take that to New Zealand quite easy, so it's quite brilliant. So how does this whole thing start? Well, some of you guys may be able to relate. 8.5 hours is the average sitting time of kids these days across the globe. And so I'm a stepmom to a gorgeous girl named Ella, and back then when she was 7, it was one of those weekends where I was really frustrated. We had her, and she was on her computer, on her laptop, from 7 o'clock in the morning until the evening. And every time I said to her, let's go outside, let's go in the park, she said like, oh, the park is boring. I don't really want to go there. And I really hated that friction that we would have about going outside every single weekend when I had her. So with me coming from an entertainment and film background, I knew that our entertainment formats were changing. Young people weren't interacting with it the way we did. And so I started to click that if I wanted to get her outside, I would need to present her with the same thrill that she finds on the computer. So if she's into fairies, take the fairies outside. What would that look like? And so you've just seen the video. So that was back in 2011. And what makes me specifically proud of what we've accomplished to date is that we were first, not Pokemon. So there you go. We came out in April with Sharks in the Park, which I think Greg showed you this morning. And so Sharks in the Park is a game that can be played anywhere in the world, but we've shelved it at the moment. We will bring out the premium product by the end of the year. So let's look at how Magical Park works. So this is the Sir Edmund Hillary Collegiate in South Auckland, and they have Magical Park installed in their backyard. And so you see the circle with the little running man. And so imagine that the gaming content is captured in a circle. And in that circle has a specific diameter, so anything between 30 to 60 meter diameter. And in that zone, the kids are running around and chasing after kittens and dinosaurs and what have you. The orange circle on the outside is the GPS buffer. And so, as I said earlier on, the GPS has sometimes an inaccuracy. And so to allow for that inaccuracy, we're giving it 15 meters on either side. So in order to find a good place to play Magical Park or to set it up for us, it needs to be a minimum of 70 by 70 meters, or ideally 90 by 90 meters or bigger. Now that's a pretty big space, but the benefit of having that is that the bigger the space, the more the kids run. So here are the 3 games that are currently in Magical Park. Augmentia, where the kids have to run around and chase after 15 kittens. They have to herd them before the bad fairy comes and takes them away if they're not fast enough. Prehistoria, that's more for the little ones. They're running after the dinosaur eggs. So they have to collect 8 dinosaur eggs. And even though a lot of kids run away from T-Rex, as you saw in the video, he's actually quite friendly. And then we've got Alienscape, which is my favorite. There is the munching monster. And the munching monster has trapped poor little aliens in cages. And it's a race against time where you as the player have to free those little aliens before the munching monster comes and eats them. So all these games have got triggers in them that forces the kids to run around and collect things and run forwards and backwards in that circle. Now, some of you may think, aren't they going to run into each other and hurt each other? Since 2011, we had the first prototype delivered in 2012. We have not had anyone injured, not a screen broken, nothing. And that is because with the device, you've got peripheral view on the outside, so you still see what is coming. With a headset, you wouldn't. And because we're playing on grass, if you drop the device, it won't break. So what do you need? You need smartphone and tablet, and if you remember earlier on, I was talking about the sensors, so it needs a GPS, accelerometer, compass, and gyroscope, and it needs to have some form of mobile data, so for instance, Wi-Fi access. And it only needs that in order to figure out where you are in the world. It's just literally to check and verify the GPS coordinates. So per game, if you were playing in a normal park, it won't be using more than 100 kilobytes per game. So it's pretty low. Our games are on average played 30 to 60 minutes. And we're quite happy about that because if you think back, augmented reality used to be like 30-second gimmicks, and I'm quite sick of those. So I want to see more augmented reality apps that are actually holding the attention for longer and have a purpose. And then we have the kids running around on average per game 1.45 kilometers, which we're also quite happy about. We are following a new trend, which you may or may not have heard of, which is ethical gaming. Now, because Magical Park is aimed at kids 6 to 11, and I'm a parent as well, I do not want my child to be bombarded with advertisement. I do not want my child to be bombarded with in-app transactions and rack up a massive credit card bill. And I do not want my child's data to be captured through data mining. So that's why we make sure that our games have got no in-app advertisement, no in-app purchases, and no data mining. And just on the last one with the data mining, I want you to be aware that a lot of apps, so the kids' apps in particular, have got a global rule, which is called the COPPA rule. So the COPPA rule protects kids' privacy. So if you have launched or published an app as a kids' app, you are, as the developer, not allowed to collect kids' data. So you're not allowed to collect the name, the address, the age. But if that very game is published as an adult game, and trust me, kids will find it, you have the permission to collect that data. So do be aware of that. And and last but least, so we wanted to make a point of making our apps free. You know, unless it is declared a premium, it is free to play and there's no in-app purchases. And I guess this is where, you know, a lot of people go, so you're not following the traditional rules on how you make money, so how do you make money? Well, every magical park that is out there at the moment is sponsored by the council. Because the council has got an interest in getting tech-minded families back to urban parks. That's what they want. So they have been looking to technology for a long time in order to motivate, especially kids, to go back to the parks, because they're spending a lot of time, obviously, on recreational facilities. But they've noticed that there is a certain demographic that is just not showing up. So we're also really happy about, and this was like a side product that wasn't so much planned, I guess, is that after the kids have been playing for 30 to 60 minutes, all of a sudden they do want to go to the playground. All of a sudden they want to climb the tree, ride their bike on the cycling park, feed the ducks. And so everybody wins, everybody is happy, and we're quite proud to say that kids are now pestering their parents to go back to the park. And so basically your local council can set up a park like that for $2,500 per park per year. And this is a price that we didn't come up with, that the Wellington Council, Auckland Council, Porirua, and HUT came up with together, presented to us and said, this is what you're going to sell it for. We're going to give you the support to make this work. And then everybody is happy. And so that's what we did. So thanks to the council support that we've had in New Zealand, we were made aware of Parks Week. Parks Week was in March, and this is when the councils are celebrating the parks they have. So in Rotorua, there was actually a park set up for Parks Week. And so that was literally just 9 days. And in those 9 days, we ramped up from 14 active parks to 176. And so we started to work with 51 councils in Australia and 19 councils in New Zealand. And we were pretty proud of that. That was pretty cool. And so to bore you with some stats, during that 1 week, we had 9,625 gaming sessions. Over 24,000 people across Australasia went to parks. And those people played over 1,200 hours outdoors in a park a game. So pretty good. Now let's have a look at the schools. So we had 13 schools participate during that time with us and trial Magical Park. And what they came back with was that they use it as a reward for good behavior. They use it as a sporty exercise to get the kids outside. They use it to connect the younger and the older kids. So the older child teaches the younger child how to use the app. They also noticed that there was all of a sudden a motivation, even for those kids that really struggled to learn to read. There was that motivation. They wanted to learn to read in order so that they could play the game properly. And then you may know that I heard from a couple of principals, about 10% of the students tend to stay behind in the classroom and don't want to go outside. This is another incentive to drag them out in the breaks. And then some schools used it to teach game design and game stories. They set them down and they say, what would your game world look like, and have them write a little story about it. Or just basically in the coding club, explain technology, the sensors, or even what game testing would be like, because every child wants to be a game tester these days. Now, there was a Monday morning. We had a stressful weekend. It was very busy with support calls. And on that Monday morning, I found in my inbox a video. I was almost in tears. That's how touched I was. And so I want to do a really big shout out to the Sir Edmund Hillary College.
Middle school has launched its very first magical fields. In order to play, all we had to do is download Magical Park. And the best thing is, it's for free! This app was designed for kids like us to get active outdoors. Here's what we have to say about this app.
The Magical Park is very cool, fun and exciting, but at the same time is also tiring.
This app is so amazing.
I recommend this app for schools to play because it is fun, cool, and it's also tiring, chasing after kittens, and it's good fitness. I think it's a pretty cool game, but it's very tiring because you have to run after the kittens. And my advice to you, if you're going to play this game, is stay away from that red fairy. I recommend this app to everyone, but next time they should put a superhero version where you catch the villains or robot theme, but otherwise it's a great app. Yeah.
We would like to thank Geo AR Games for this awesome app.
Yay! Pretty cool. If that doesn't make you cry, I don't know what. At least it made me cry, seriously. I was so moved. So we are doing a Magical Park school promotion, and it's been long overdue. And so we're giving schools around the world 2 months for free. What you obviously need to consider is, have you got a big enough school ground? Have you got Wi-Fi in your school ground, or do you need to install a Wi-Fi booster? But basically, all you need to do is to sign up at geoar.tech/schools. What do we get out of it? Very simple. We are not an indie game developer company. We develop gaming technology. And to get technology out there is an educational process in itself. So we want to educate the young kids, the teachers, about this new technology because there is more to come. And so, yeah, for us it is like feedback, it is insights, it is collaborating with the teachers around when we're ready to deliver educational content, what's it going to be, the first bit. I have set up a Magical Park at the back here, so you can see the orange arrow where we are at the moment, and then towards the opposite from, I think that's the government house, isn't it? Yeah. So in that park area is Magical Park set up. So you can just download the app, you can take, get a little bit of fresh air, wander down. Remember what I said about magnets on cases, and play the app and have some fun, and let me know how it goes. Otherwise, just apply online and we'll set it up in your school ground. And that's me for today. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, I believe we've got 5 minutes. Do we have, Greg? Yeah, we got questions, 5 minutes? If I can see any hands or no questions, stand silent. There's a hand over there, yep.
Where are your Magical Parks?
So we have 5 in Auckland, we have 1 in Selwyn and Rollston, we have 2 in Wellington, 1 in Hutt and Avalon Park, we have 2 more in Auckland, actually there's 6 in Auckland, and I'm missing 1. In Hastings, Frimley Park, and in Dunedin, we've got another one. And I'm hoping I'm not forgetting one. Oh yeah, and there's Nelson is coming up with 2, so that's 2 more that are coming up. But if you go onto our website, or even inside the app, there's a little map. You can see exactly where they all are. And otherwise, pester your council.
Can different kids play different games?
Yes, yes. So they're not multiplayer games at this stage. Parents are a little bit iffy about that one because we're trying to make the app safe. Any other questions? Cool, well then thank you very much and enjoy the rest of today.
Thank you, Melanie.
Cool.